At this point in the summer, you're in that sweet spot. In between last homeschool year, and you haven't quite fully grasped that there is going to be a next homeschool year. You're far enough removed from both of those years, and you are deep in the trenches of possibly getting kids to camp and picking kids up from camp and vacation Bible school and heading to the pool and picnics outside and popsicles and fire bowls with s'mores and just all of the things. And so you're far enough removed from the two of those. But that next homeschool year will be here before you know it. Time is flying, right? Because you're having fun. So therefore, time flies when you're having fun. But I want you to feel filled up and ready for next homeschool year. And this is the time to do it. And I want you to be filled up. So that's what we're going to talk about here today. Welcome to Little by Little Homeschool Podcast, where you'll learn tips and strategies that will empower you to home educate your children. I'm Leigh Nguyen, a homeschool mom of over 12 years, which includes 2 graduates. When I started homeschooling, I was pretty much on my own and was desperate for encouragement and help. My mission is to be a source of encouragement and help to you. Whether you are just beginning your homeschool journey or you're deep into the homeschool lifestyle, Little by Little Homeschool wants to help you stay the course because all the time you are investing into your children is completely worth it. If you're ready to take your homeschool to new levels, keep listening. As a homeschool mom, you're stretched pretty thin. You've got a lot of responsibilities, a lot of roles, a lot of duties, everything resting upon your shoulders. And you have all of the home duties. You have the motherhood, the parenting of these amazing children that God has given to you. You've got their education, and you need to be mentally and emotionally resilient and solid, like every day, right? Every day of the year. And as you are right now in summer break, maybe we can kind of let that go a little bit. But come the homeschool year, when you have plans and you've got curriculum and resources and all the things that you want to be able to accomplish and all of the educational opportunities you want to provide for your children, it can get a little bit hairy there, right? With that mentally and emotionally resilient and solid. Summers were the time, for most of the time when my kids were younger, that they were all about my kids. And the summers that were all about them led to me going into the homeschool year being drained. Do you remember that story I told a couple episodes back? It might have even been about a month or so ago. If I find the episode, I will drop it in the show notes. But I talked about how I basically had a meltdown on the first day of the homeschool year. I highly recommend against that type of situation. And I know that it was because I spent all summer focused on my kids, them having fun. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't have fun, and I should have fun along with it. We did a lot of fun things, but it was so focused on them that I walked into that first day drained, just done. I didn't have anything to offer because I hadn't filled myself up over the summer. And so, pretty much drained before we even began, and it was not a pretty sight. We did redeem it. We had a great year, and we're on the other side of that, and I have found kind of a balance. So I'm going to talk today. I'm going to give you 5 ways to be mentally and emotionally healthy, because I want you to use this summer to get yourself ready for next homeschool year, because it's coming whether we want to or not. And it doesn't matter if you start in a month or you don't start for 2 months. This is going to help you take some time, take a few moments, and really just kind of be introspective and think, what am I going to do, and be intentional about filling yourself up. So maybe grab a pen and paper so you can write down some of these ideas and get ready to brainstorm after them so that you can get some things set into motion. I want to start right now first with my main point. And the main point of this, and everything's going to build upon this, is the fact that your family's life is not all about or just about your kids. Yes, they are the most needy members of your family. They are often the most demanding of their needs. And when we have little ones and babies, they have needs and they are demanding them by crying, and that is just their way of expressing that to you. As they get older, they can fulfill some of those needs on their own, but there are some years where you have multiple children, And they are very needy, and they will demand that their needs are met, and that seems to take priority. However, there is much more to your family's life. And when you're in the trenches and you have a lot of little kids or just a couple of little kids, it will revolve around them. But there should become a shift and a pivot where it doesn't become all of them, because they can begin to meet their own needs. They can learn to be patient, and they can learn to wait for their turn. You also have to remember that in your family, there is also a marriage. And long after the kids are gone, or even the day that the last child moves out and you are an empty nester, you have that marriage. And if that is ignored, I have heard statistically, when those are ignored during the raising of the children years, that it is really hard to reconnect. And I have thought about that. My husband and I have even openly talked about that, because we are closer to that point. And so we have to be intentional. And if you ignore the marriage for the 20 plus years that children are in the home, you're going to sit there one day and say, I don't even know who that person is. But having children and raising children, it can either bring us together in our marriage, or it can push us apart. So there is the marriage, and there also is just the relationship between the two of you, not even considering the kids. You're also a woman. You are hopefully a woman who is seeking to glorify God in your day, and there's just a lot of aspects to being a woman. I know that for guys, it's like, what in the world? I don't quite understand you, but I enjoy the complexity of women and how we add to life, right? We add a little bit of fun. We add a little adventure. We add a little bit of unexpectedness, is what I like to say. But the main point here that we're going to build upon is that your family's life is not just about the kids. How do you do this? How do you spend some time this summer making sure that you are mentally and emotionally ready, and not making every single moment of every single day about the kids? Yes, they are very important. And the fact that there will never come a time that they are not really a huge part of you as the mom. A few episodes back, I had talked about the book, The Power of a Praying Parent, I believe, or Power of Praying for Your Children, something like that. And I had mentioned that I think I had mentioned in that, or soon afterwards around that, I found that the author had a book about the power of praying for your adult children. And so I got that book because I realized I have 2 adult children, and my youngest, because he is the youngest, is hot on their tail and wanting to be independent. And I began reading this book, and the very first day I started reading, I'm just sitting there crying, because I'm like, yes, she gets me. And she's saying that your kids will always be a big part of your life. And as a woman, as a mom, our hearts are just tethered to them. And so I'm not saying to ditch that or to put that aside, but just to know that that is an important part and an important facet, and it is something that will be a part of you your entire life. But there are other aspects to you, too, that are going to help you to be mentally and emotionally solid and resilient, so that you can continue to pour into your children, no matter their ages and no matter the season of life that they are in or that you are in. And so how to do this? The first thing is you have to prioritize your relationship with God. How do you do that? Spending time daily reading the Bible. Also, along with that, you can read some devotional books that are either meant just for women, or some type of Bible study, or meant for moms or homeschool moms. There's a lot of resources out there. But if you only have time to read one thing, read your Bible. Spend some time, just quiet time. Something that I love to do in the summer is in the evening, everybody's in bed. I did this when my kids were young, when they were all in bed. Now that my kids are older, I'm not really quite sure if they're in bed or not, but I'll just sneak outside, sit in my backyard in the dark. There's no neighbors out. There's nobody out. I can look up and I can see the moon and I can see the stars. Even if it's a cloudy night, it doesn't matter. Just sitting there in the quietness and just the peacefulness, it just gives me some quiet time. Sometimes I'm the maybe slight weirdo, and I lay down and I just look up and I just am just in awe of the sky, and just spend that time just praying and thanking God, and just kind of giving myself just a little bit of space in my brain, maybe even if I'm not thinking about anything, but just looking up and just sitting there and being. So I highly encourage, if you don't do that, make it a practice to go out and spend a couple of minutes if you can. But just having some quiet time, it can happen during the day as well, maybe during nap time, but spending also time in prayer, just pouring out your heart to God. He wants to hear. He already knows how you're feeling, and just the verbalization will really help you to process. So the first thing is to prioritize your relationship with God. Second is to ask God where He wants to work in your life. Now that you have a little bit of margin, hopefully, in your days when it comes to the summer, it is a really good time to work on character refining for yourself. I know that we have talked about character training and all that goes along with that with kids. However, there is still character within yourself. I know there's within mine as well. I'm not perfect. There is still sanctification going on, and asking God, where do you want to work in my life? And then listen for Him to tell you, to let you know. And it probably won't be a thunderous boom right at that moment. Most likely, it'll just be little things that'll tell you where He wants you to work. And if you're not quite sure, take a look at the fruit of the Spirit and say, what am I lacking in? Read scripture that has to do with the infilling of that which you feel like you are lacking, and then look for areas and times that you can work on that. I remember years ago when I began this practice, and I was like, God, what area do you want me to work on? And I very clearly felt that He was saying patience, because it kept coming up. It'd be a sermon on Sunday. It would be a sermon that I would listen to on like a podcast app before even there was necessarily podcasts that I knew about. It would be in my kids' character training book or some story I would read somewhere. It just kept coming up. And I was like, okay, God, I believe that you want me to work on patience, because I am very impatient, and felt this is a good thing to work on. I was like, okay, so how should I work on patience? You know how He worked on patience with me? Is that He gave me many, many, many instances and situations where I had to learn and practice patience. And this occurred over months and months and months. It took me a little while, and I clued in. I was like, oh, this is how I grow in patience. So ask God where He wants to work in your life. Number 3 is to focus on 1 or 2 habits that you need to incorporate into your life. Maybe this is something daily, weekly, that you are feeling like, I'm lacking in this. So some examples would be, maybe it's just overall in general with your health. Maybe you feel like you need to incorporate the habit of exercise and working out and building muscle. Maybe it is the habit of getting good sleep, realizing that you can fulfill all of your duties and your role and have joy in your heart during the day if you get your sleep at night. Maybe it's a habit of just taking some time alone. Maybe it's a habit of your eating and what you eat, how much you eat. Maybe it's a habit that you need to pour into some relationships, whether these are friends or it is family. Maybe it's some habits along with the home that have to do with chores. And this is where the tidy home comes alongside you and shows you what that looks like, is creating a routine of habits in order to conquer all of those chores at home that you feel that you need to do. And you can get all that information at littlebylittlehomeschool.com/tidyhome, and the link is in the show notes. But take a look at some habits, just 1, maybe 2 at the most, that you need to incorporate. It takes, there's different scientific evidence as to how many days it takes, but I would say it takes at least a minimum of 30 days to incorporate a habit. Maybe it's just a simple habit of making your bed every single day. It's going to take you a month, and it will become a habit. It will become ingrained in your mind that that is what you do, especially when you attach that habit onto something else. I come up in the morning after, I don't make my bed right away. So we'll just talk specifically about beds. I don't make it first thing in the morning as soon as I get up. Have no desire. But when I come back up upstairs after getting some morning chores and breakfast and all those things done, I come up to get dressed, and I just automatically move into making my bed. So it might be something small like that, or it might be something bigger. But what is a habit or 2 that you feel that you should focus on this summer? It's a great time to do it. Number 4 is to spend time evaluating your last school year. When you do that, you can look at the highs, you can look at the lows, you can look at what worked, what didn't work, and then you can have a plan for this coming homeschool year. Yeah, this coming homeschool year, it is definitely coming. If you do not have a plan, you have no idea what you're doing, or you have an idea and you're just not solid on it, this is where your homeschool blueprint will come alongside you and walk you through those steps of establishing a solid plan for your homeschool It'll give you an opportunity to evaluate things and to evaluate what is important to you and your husband for your family. And you can get more information about that course at littlebylittlehomeschool.com/blueprint. But once you have evaluated last homeschool year, or if you're going into your first homeschool year, once you have come up with a plan for it, understand that you have done that work and you can put it aside for now. There's no reason to ruminate and to think about it and to order more curriculum every single day or every single week. Evaluate the last year, have a plan for the next year, and then put it aside for now. Just have some fun this summer. It's okay to have some fun. I actually encourage you to have some fun, knowing that you have those plans and you will then implement those plans when the time gets closer. Number 5, the final thing I want to mention to you to help you to get ready for next homeschool year is to soak up what is going to fill you up. This is where your own unique personality and the things that you enjoy come into play. Are you a really social person and what's going to fill you up is some time with friends? Get some times on the calendars. Maybe that is with your kids and you do some backyard play dates or meet at some playgrounds, or maybe it's just some time with some friends or family or whoever you want to have some relationships with. You just get them on the calendar. You can do it again with kids, without kids, but what is going to fill you up? So it could be time with other people. It could be just time sitting there and reading a book. Maybe you have a book list, things that you want to get to or get through this summer, and you just set aside some time every single day. Maybe it's 30 minutes, 45 minutes. What is it that soaks you up? Is it sitting outside just on your back deck with a cup of coffee and a book or your journal or your Bible? What is it that's going to fill you up? And get that on the calendar. Figure out where you can put those things in. But don't fill up every single moment of every single day. So allow some margin. There's that balance there between finding and planning for and actually carrying through with the things that are going to fill you up, but then allow that margin as well. Because when you are filled up, you aren't burned out, and you therefore are not going into the next homeschool year burned out. Like I mentioned, I had done a couple of times, and especially with that one instance where I was completely burned out by the first day of homeschool, which is a little embarrassing, but we're all friends here, so I don't mind saying that to you. Since we are friends, I would love to be able to get to know you better in our Facebook group. It's a wonderful group of parents there who want to encourage one another and share their highs and share their lows, and you can talk about all the things that it comes to homeschooling. Would love to see you over there. The link is in the show notes. We are having a lot of fun in that group this summer. I have an amazing mom. Her name is Elizabeth, and if you're in the Facebook group, you will get the privilege of being able to interact with her. She is just such a great resource and a good friend to me, and I so appreciate her effort to interact with you and to encourage you in the Facebook group. So I would love to see you over there. Elizabeth would love to see you over there as well. And, you can invite a friend too. So don't be a friend. Don't be afraid to invite a friend to the Facebook group as well. Again, that link is in the show notes. I hope so far you are having a really good summer. I am enjoying being able to stay connected with you through this summer and would love to see you over in the Facebook group. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you for listening, friend. I'd love to connect with you more. You can find social media links in the show notes and share this episode with a friend who could use a boost to her homeschool. See you back here real soon.